Welcome to Women in the Arena podcast, the podcast celebrating women doing extraordinary things in plain sight. I'm your host, Audra Egan, and our mission is to elevate the value, strength, and resilience each woman brings to the world. Without further delay, let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome in, everyone, and welcome to a very special show. Today, we are celebrating our 2-year anniversary of Women in the Arena podcast. I am just amazed and in awe that I've made it this long and it's grown this much, where I didn't think anybody beyond a couple of friends would listen. And now we are in 50 countries. I've interviewed almost 100 women from all over the world, and it's still growing. And it has been a true honor to be able to be the ambassador of creating a space where women can express their value and teach other women that they're just as valuable as well. So we're going to do something really fun today. And in honor of celebrating Women in the Arena's 2-year anniversary, I'm not going to interview anybody today. I'm going to be interviewed. And I've invited 2 friends of mine to do the honors. I have no idea what they're going to ask me. I told them nothing's off limits, no holds barred. They can go for it. And I want to introduce the 2 of them to you today. So I am joined by Suha Zehl. You're going to hear more about her in the next coming weeks. She is a very accomplished executive, and she's added a couple of new describers to her list of already long accomplishments. She is a mentor, as well as now an incredible public speaker. I am also joined by Mike Miller. Oh yeah, you heard it. Mike Miller, that is a boy. He is the very first man on the podcast. Mike, do you hear there are women all over the world that are clutching their pearls? So
I hear the gasp.
The gasp is loud and clear. So no pressure. But Mike is also a very accomplished executive. However, that's probably the least interesting thing about him. He is a U.S. naval veteran where he was a rescue swimmer. He is a volunteer firefighter in his hometown. He's also a fire instructor for Rowan University, and he is a single dad to a very precocious little girl who is going to give him a run for his money, and soon to be married man. So congratulations to you, Mike. It is both my pleasure and my honor to have you here to the show. Suha and Mike, thank you for being here. And now the mic is yours.
Well, thank you. And, thank you very much for having me. This is an equal honor for me to be on your show, and knowing that I'm the first male to maybe participate just raises the bar a little bit. So I'll do the best I can. Okay.
I have no doubt. That is why I have been hounding you for months to be on the show, because I know that you will make an excellent representation of your sex.
I'll do my best.
Well,
so let's jump right into it, right? Oh, sorry,
Before
Suha.
you do that, we have to also wish Audra a very, very happy birthday.
It's so
today, in addition to it being the 2-year anniversary, it's also Audra's birthday. So happy birthday, Audra.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Back to you, Mike.
So I'll just jump right into it. And I've had the opportunity to listen to quite a few of your podcasts and just blown away by the incredible and accomplished women that you have an opportunity to have conversation with. And so to you, I'll ask the question of how have those interviews impacted you, and how has that changed how you get through life or navigate the waters of either your professional or personal goals, careers?
It has impacted me so significantly, I think it's changed my entire life and my entire outlook. Because part of doing this, and Suha knows this because I've interviewed her, one of the requirements that I ask is for everyone to be vulnerable, which means that these women are sharing a piece of themselves with me. It is absolutely impossible not to be changed when these women are giving the gift of their time and a piece of themselves with me. So I take something away from each and every one of those conversations. How it's changed my perspective is, first of all, I realized that one person truly can change the world. Given the right motivation and the right energy, one person can change the world, but not in the way that you think. It's just by influencing other people to do something different, and then they do something different, and that's how the world gets changed, is that you create energy and momentum. It's also taught me that all the things that I thought were so important, I realize aren't. They just aren't. They're just not that big of a deal. And, everything in perspective is, if it's not going to kill you, if it's not going to put you in some sort of duress, then it's not that big of a deal. You can handle it. And I think the last thing is that I stopped caring so much about what other people think of me. I really don't care. I'm just doing the best that I can with what I've been given. And if people don't like it, then, or they don't like me, then that's none of my business. So those are the things that I've taken away from this experience.
I'm going to follow up with a question to that, Audra, because having had the honor and the privilege of being on your show and being interviewed by you, and I know how authentic and genuine you are and how much you share of yourself, I'm actually going to ask you, of the 100 women you've interviewed, who actually had the most impact? Whose story jarred you and you got, oh my God, I am so happy I got to share your story on my show?
That one's very easy because it was the hardest one I've ever done. And Mike knows this because I actually sent him this to listen to. It was the one that I did on racism. That one was the hardest one I've ever done because I knew so little. It's a story of a woman named Tony that she's an accidental filmmaker, and she interviewed 30 people that gave their account of their first experience with racism. And I had no idea. I literally had zero idea of their impact. And that changed me the most because I understood that even though I thought I knew a lot, I absolutely knew nothing.
It's interesting. I haven't had the opportunity to listen to that one, so I'm looking forward to it.
It's definitely worth it. There's no question about it. So I'm going to jump back just a couple of feet, right? So you had the opportunity to start this show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's turned out to be an amazing show that has great reach, right? So walk us through that experience and tell us, knowing what you know now, would you have made any changes? Would you have made any adjustments? Are there any things that you would have maybe approached a little bit differently?
I wouldn't have doubted myself. So I actually bought my microphone in December. I didn't actually start recording until 4 months later in April and in May. And then I didn't release my first episode until June on my birthday because I told myself it's now or never. We're going to do it now or we're never going to do it. And all of that time was just me doubting myself, thinking, who do I think I am? It's all that weird, strange self-talk that everybody has the ability to do, but women are really, really good at the negative self-talk. It's that imposter syndrome that everybody's been hearing about. And I just kept thinking, who's going to listen to me? Why would they listen to me? I'm not famous. Do I have anything worth saying? And I just wouldn't have doubted it. I just would have just taken a deep breath, closed my eyes and done it. And just jumped in. But that's what I do now more often is like, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe it will fail. Oh, well, I'll do something different. But I think that's what I would have done different. And that's the only thing I would have done different because I've learned so much along the way that I wouldn't want to lose.
Nice.
And I think part of it is you started like right after COVID. And I think a lot of us were really needing something to uplift us and to hear stories of similar challenges of somebody who's overcome stuff. So I think your timing was perfect as well.
Yeah, it was June 2020 when we were all still in this weird lockdown space. And do we go out? Do we not? What do we do? And you can only watch so much Netflix. I mean, my God, everybody was like watching Tiger King. I mean, that's like the worst show I've ever seen in my life. But I mean, everybody was so enthralled with it. But yeah, people needed something different and needed connection and communication. And that's what I was offering is connection and communication.
How quickly did you know you were onto something?
Oh, I didn't. I don't think
you're onto something.
No, I didn't think I realized. I don't think I realized that I was onto something until strangers started reaching out to me saying, I've heard your show and I really would love to be on it. Because up until that point, so it was about 90 days. Up until that point, I was still bugging my friends. Will you be on the show, please? Will you please be on the show? And they were referring me other women and that kind of thing. So it grew through referral. But when I got my first inquiry by someone that wasn't referred to me or I didn't know, I was like, this might be something. I think that's when I first was like, well, maybe it's more than just a couple of my friends listening to this.
And it's interesting. I mean, because you don't do any marketing, you don't, you just put it out there, you just upload it. And so people are finding your show and listening to it all grassroots, all, very organic. You're not out there saying, listen to my show or whatever. And, to reach 50 countries, that's amazing, Audra. That truly is. Have you ever thought about maybe like visiting some of these women? Have you visited any of these women internationally? I mean, I don't know.
I haven't, but I want to. My goal is to take it on the road. I would love to take it on the road. There are some that I've interviewed that I think would be so much more with a camera and being able to see what they do in action and be able to share more of what they do with, in a different angle and a different perspective. So yes, I would absolutely love to be able to do that. And one of the reasons why I don't do marketing, I mean, I do some social media stuff, but honestly, it kind of confuses me. I don't really understand it. I mean, the kids make it look super easy and it's not as easy as it looks. I mean, it really isn't. And you're like, I don't know. I don't well, will people look at this? I have no idea. So I just stick stuff out there and hope it works.
It does.
So tell me, where are you going? Like, if you have an end goal, what's your end goal? Where are you trying to go with the show? When will you know you've arrived?
When will I know I've arrived? You know what? I don't think I'll ever know that I've arrived. That means that I have nothing else left to do. And that's a really depressing thought. If I have nothing else left to do, I don't know that I could do that. But when will I know that I've gotten closer to what I want? Is I want this to be a full-time business that will take care of not only myself and my family, but also take care of other people's families. And the reason why I would like to do that is because there is so much more I can do, so many more people that I can help if my attentions weren't divided. And I would love to be able to do in-person events and do public speaking engagements and also help on the side with maybe nurturing other female entrepreneurs and give them an opportunity to start their own businesses. So there's all kinds of things that I would love to do. Basically, the sky's the limit. And I, until I find my limit, I'm going to keep going.
You have no limits, but it's interesting because what you're talking about is what you want your legacy to be, really, and what you want to leave, the impact that you want to have. And I think it's, everything you talked about is I could see it. I can see you doing, like a women's retreat. I can see you doing a live event and inviting women and men to come and learn from each other. I could see it growing organically in that aspect, and I think you would be very, very successful at it. So I think you're on the right track. And I think I'm excited to see where you go with it, because it's just, I can see it. It's a passion and it matters. And I want to take it back to, why does it matter? Why is it so important to you that you do this?
It started because I was tired of feeling invisible. And what I mean by that is the value that I bring to the world is unique to me, and it's very valuable. It just wasn't recognized as valuable in a corporate setting, which still blows my mind. I mean, one of the things that I'm really good at is connection. Corporations want to bottle that up and sell it. And I do that naturally, but it still wasn't recognized as valuable. And then when I stepped back away from myself and not, making it all about me, I stepped back and I looked at the women that were around me, and I realized that they were in the same boat, that they felt the same way, that their contributions weren't viewed as valuable. And I was like, I'm not going to wait for the world to change. I'm going to change it, because I think that each and every one of us on the planet has value to give. But uniquely so women, because we go over and above what we need to all the time, and we still don't think it's enough or good enough. And so that's why it's important to me, because I want to change that outlook and that perspective, and that it is good enough. It is enough. As a matter of fact, it's more than enough, and you're amazing. And take it one step further, is that women they should no longer be considered your greatest threat, because they're not. They are your greatest asset. And it's important that somebody try and change that mindset that we have all inherited of, women are less than, or they're competition or whatever. No, that's garbage. That's why this is important, is because it's time to change the world.
What I find so interesting is that it's known that women manage differently, that they lead differently, that they have different, perspective, and all of those things matter, right? And I think, at least I'd like to believe, most recently folks have recognized the value of diversity, right? Whether that be men versus is the wrong word, men to women, or different races, different cultures, all of those types of things, right? But yet, to your point, there still seems to be that kind of glass ceiling specific to women that is still holding them back, at least in some industries and in some places. And then there's also some incredibly accomplished women that have been able to just break through, right? What's the difference? There's societal impact potentially, there's industrial impact potentially. What do you think are the ones that are limiting us the most?
Ourselves. I know that that's probably going to be a really unpopular answer, but it's a really true answer, because
Very honest.
It's a very honest answer. But ourselves, we doubt ourselves entirely too much. And we're looking for acknowledgement. We're looking for external acknowledgement. We're looking for external approval. I don't know where that came from. I have no idea where that came from. I just know that it is something that is inherent in most of the women that I have spoken to, most of the women that I know, that they're always looking for some external approval. And I think the difference between those that have found a way to break through and those that are still hitting that glass ceiling is the ones that have found a way to break through don't listen to the stuff that happens outside them, that they have this belief inside themselves that it doesn't matter what anybody else says. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And that the only approval that matters to them is their own. And I think that is the difference. And I will tell you that once I figured that out for myself, that was life-changing. And I'm not ashamed to tell you guys that it took me 50 years to figure that thing out. But once you figure that out, there's no going back. And once I figured that out, I want to tell every woman on the planet, stop looking for external approval. You're amazing. The first person and the only person you need to be worried about approval is your own. Everything else will fall into place. But we still have to learn that. And we are going to learn it the hard way.
So knowing that's an internal journey and one of which people need to have that breakthrough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not suggesting you're asking for this, but I'm curious because I happen to be of the opposite sex. Like, how can we help? How can men that recognize that this is needed, how can we assist or just recognize it and help people through that journey? Because it seems like it's very personal and very internal.
It
and
is.
So I'm dumbfounded, and as a dad and as a maybe as a man, I always want to come in with the solution, right? And so that's my natural inclination, right?
Yes, it is. And I'm glad you asked me that question because I have a great answer. And Suha, I want you to chime in on this answer too, because I know you have an answer for this as well. If it's professional, offer to mentor. There is some of the greatest mentors I have ever had professionally were men that recognized my potential, also at the same time recognized that I was having some mental gymnastics going on in my head, and said to me
did we lose her?
that I believe in you. I will back you up all the time. I don't care if you make mistakes. If you make mistakes, I'll help you fix it. I will always defend you. If we need to redirect, I'll redirect. We'll do that one-on-one. We'll do that personally. I will not embarrass you publicly. I will always back you up. Let me help you get there. That's what you can do. And that will go a long way. As a matter of fact, you will have a friend for life if you do that, because very few men have done it. That will make that woman loyal to you for the rest of your life.
And I appreciate you asking that question, especially since you have a young daughter who is going to be experiencing this as she grows up. What I say, my advice would be, if you see something, say something. And it goes both ways. If you see somebody being disrespectful, being shutting a woman out, not including them, say something. We get interrupted in meetings. I think there's a statistics that says like 75% of the time women get interrupted in meetings. And then a man says the same thing that the woman was saying, and all of a sudden it's a brilliant idea. And it's like, what? When you see something like that happen, speak up and say, hey, wait, Audra was still talking, or let's hear what Audra, let her finish her thought first. Because that then sends the message to the others that it's not okay to behave in that way. I read another statistics that blew my mind. Men and women applying for a job. And men will look at the job description and see maybe he has 30% of the qualifications of what they need. and he'll immediately apply for that job. Oh yeah, I got this covered. A woman will not apply unless she thinks she has at least 70% of what they're asking for. Think of that huge difference. And that comes from confidence. That comes from knowing who you are, believing in yourself. So we have to raise that confidence, that courage, that leaning in and speaking up. And both men and women have to encourage each other to do that. So, mentoring is a great way to help somebody, especially when they're starting out, to learn these skills, to be able to come up and speak up and feel comfortable that it's okay if I say something and it doesn't sound right, or if I make a mistake. That's not the end of the world. And we see it. One thing Audra said at the beginning of our show, of the show today, is she said, I stopped caring about what others think. That comes with time, unfortunately, for women. When we become more comfortable in our own skin, we tend to care less about the opinions of others and what they say, because we know our worth. But that comes with time. And that time is where you as a different person can come in and help build that confidence for that woman. That's what I would add.
Thoughts? I can see his wheels
I can see the
turning.
smoke.
Oh
Well,
my gosh.
it makes me, internalize what exactly you're saying. As you know, I have an 11-year-old daughter, and I see her go through this where she second guesses herself, or she doesn't have the confidence that she should have, that I, as her father, think that she should absolutely have, right? And I find there's societal input, but I also find, which I'd love to get your take on this as well, is sometimes some of the most ruthless are fellow women, right? And so
Yes.
at that age
Yep.
group, right? Maybe that
Mhm.
stops, but like some of her biggest critics are other 11-year-old girls in her class. And I struggle with trying to figure out, how do I help her navigate their opinions aren't important, their feedback's not important, because these are the girls that everybody wants to be liked by, right? Or whatever.
Mhm.
And so tell me a little bit about either your experiences, or how do you combat that, right? Like,
Well,
what do you do?
hindsight is always 2020, and
Of
you can
course.
see a whole lot better looking backwards than you can in the moment. And I had those same experiences. Suha had those same experiences. Even though Suha grew up in Lebanon, we still had the exact same experiences. Those girls are nicknamed mean girls for a reason. And it stems from insecurity. That took a long time for me to understand, that those girls that think that they're better than them, or better than others, that's a projection. That is not what they feel internally. Internally, they feel worthless. And the only way that they feel better is to make other people's feel less than. That's it. That's the whole thing. And it comes from this inherited idea of scarcity, because historically women were treated as property of either their fathers or their husbands, or if they had neither of those, their brothers. And the only way to escape that kind of situation is to get married and have a man take care of you. So there's this weird inherited thing, traditional thing, that you had to be competitive over other women, because that means that if you married some guy, then that was a guy that you couldn't marry. That's where it's come from historically. But that's no longer the case. Scarcity is no longer the case. That doesn't necessarily mean that same attitude hasn't been perpetuated forward, because it has. It absolutely has. We have to break the cycle, and we have to teach our young women, our young girls, that they're operating on an old narrative that doesn't work anymore, and also give them a greater perspective of what that other girl is doing and why she's doing it. It doesn't make it any easier for her, and I'm sorry, it's not. It's not going to be easier for her. She's going to have to go through it. But if she understands the situation, she might be able to handle it a little bit better. Suha,
And
what
I
do you
think as
think?
what I was going to add is, as a parent, most parents want to come in and solve the problem. Hey, stop, bullying my child, or stop being mean to my child. And I think that actually alienates more than anything. I think that what you can do as a parent, what I can do, I have 2 boys. And so what I can do as a parent is help them understand the situation, help them with coping mechanisms, because like Audra said, they're going to go through it, because it's almost like a rite of passage, unfortunately. And unfortunately, most households are either single parents, or both parents are out working in our day and age. So the kids are being left by themselves to a certain extent. And so they rely on that circle of friends that they have, because that's how they socialize. And so I'm not a psychologist, I will say that out front, but to me, we need to make sure that we're spending that quality time with our children, to make sure that when we're not there, they have the skills to help them cope with something like this. Again, it's not going to make it easier, but at least if they know that it may be because they feel insecure, it may be because they feel they have to feel they're better, to be able to, put somebody else down. That's really where it comes down to.
Smoke is
These
coming
are
out of his
deep,
ears
deep,
again.
deep, deep.
These are
I'm
good
sorry.
Well,
questions, Mike.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
trying to come back to this conversation, which is about this amazing impact that your show is having. And so what I'm hearing from both of you is it's regardless of the society you live in, regardless of the time, whether it was 30 years ago or today, this is innate. This is the way human beings treat each other, right?
Mhm.
How do we change that? How does this show help change that, right? Because it shouldn't be that way. I think as parents we could all say that, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so how do we help? Because I think if you can solve for that, now that's systemic. That impacts confidence. That impacts the ability to say your opinion doesn't matter. That impacts their own internal voices that say, I'm worth it. I'm valuable. And believe me, the biggest struggle that I'm having right now is, and I'll freely admit, like, these things don't happen in my head. And so I'm wondering, is that because it's Mike Miller? Or is that because I'm a male? Right? Or is it both? Right? So
I think part of it is, it's what you've been taught and what you haven't been taught. These are all old habits that we have to break. And how does this show help change that? I think part of it is being able to give a space to women and to men, because I will get you to interview with me one-on-one at some point, Michael.
Yes.
um, um, I think it's first to give them this space to express their value, because each and every one of us have a unique value. And I'm giving an opportunity from no judgment, safe, to tell their story. And I do it in such a way that I am genuinely curious about their lives. I'm drawn to them just through sheer curiosity. I want to know more. And I find that people are fascinating. But on the other end of it, people start to feel that sense of value. And I don't want to speak for Suha, because Suha actually has been a guest of mine. What was your experience when you and I got to do our interview? And I know, and this breaks my heart every single time when I say, "Hey, I want to interview you," the response that I get that is heartbreaking is, "Why do you want to interview me? I'm nothing special. I don't have anything interesting to say."
And I
That
said
hurts
that
me.
too.
She did say that.
I did
And
say that too.
and it's wrong. And that's what I'm trying to change. So, Suha, what did you feel when we got to have this experience?
Honestly, I had that first, inner critic. Why does Audra want to interview me? And who wants to hear my story? But being on the show, it's not that it validates me, but it gave me an opportunity to tell my story. And if my story resonates with somebody, if somebody experienced something similar to what I went through, then that's wonderful. And to your question, Mike, what you asked is, what does this show do? We are talking about these things. And I think the more we talk about them, the more people hear them, the more people recognize that this is something that needs to change. Because if we don't talk about it, then nobody's aware. Nobody knows that this is still ongoing. And so I think having the space where we talk about this, and I've listened to many of Audra's recordings and shows, and this subject matter comes up a lot of how do we handle confidence? How do we help the next generation? What do we do? That's a recurring theme, which means we're talking about it. It's resonating with people. We continue to talk about it. Will it ever be solved? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I think talking about it really does help, especially with young parents, I think, who, or those with younger children, because it is not easy. And it's hard as a parent to sit and watch your child being bullied by somebody or being put down or receiving awful texts at 2 a.m. We've heard of the kids who have, go do it, or, it's just heartbreaking. And as parents, we just need to make sure that our kids know we are there and we've got their back, and that they can come to us with about anything. Does that help?
Once again, Mike, you can always tell when his wheels turn. I mean, the expression on his face is hysterical.
I agree. All right, I'm going to lighten things up a little bit.
Yes, let's do it.
I'm actually going to ask
deep.
something on a completely different topic, because you're in the hot seat, Audra, and you said nothing's off the table.
Nothing's off the table.
If you could go back in time or forward to the future, what would you do and why?
Oh, goodness. That is a hard one, because both are super tempting.
Yep. So that's why I'm asking, what would you do?
I don't want to go forward because I don't want to miss anything. Although it's tempting, I don't want to miss anything. I really don't. If I could go back in time, I would grab my 16-year-old self and tell myself that I am absolutely worth it. It doesn't matter what anybody says, regardless of who they are. You are absolutely worth it. You are absolutely have a unique value to this world. Don't listen to what anybody says. Don't care about what anybody thinks. Just focus on what's important to you and move forward. That's what I would do. Because the thought of missing anything is, while it's kind of exciting, because let's face it, I would love to skip menopause. I'd love to. Not going to happen.
Sorry, Mike.
But like, this shit's real and it sucks. But I'd love to skip that. But I don't want to skip any of the other good parts that come with that. But I think what would be the most impactful to me is to change my mindset earlier in my life. But maybe I was meant to take this journey anyway and figure this all out. I have no idea.
Good answer. I like that. I do.
Me as well.
So, second follow-up question, kind of, also on the lighter side. What is the most bizarre thing you've ever eaten?
Oh my God. Bizarre thing. The bizarre thing I've ever eaten.
Have you ever heard of cicadas? Do you know what a cicada is?
Yes, we have them all
So
over
that
the
is
place in the summer.
So I actually ate cicadas. But
Gross.
they had them in Virginia when we were living there, and they were like doing chocolate covered cicadas. They were doing all sorts of stuff with them, and I did
Okay,
taste it.
that's gross. And growing up here in Arizona, we have cicadas all over the place, and we call them katydids, and they come out in the summer, and it's that loud buzzing that you hear.
Yeah, yeah.
As a kid, I used to catch them by the wings and like hold them. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's weird. I'm a weird girl, and I'm fine with that. Though I think the oddest thing I've ever eaten is probably cabeza, and that means head in Spanish. And what it was actually cow cheek. And this was when I was an exchange student living in Mexico, so long time ago. And they have these street vendors, and they had cabeza tacos. And our host mother was with us, and I kept asking her, "Are you sure it's not dog? I don't want to eat a dog. Please tell me it's not a dog." And they're like, "No, it's not a dog." And it was cheek. And it was really delicious. And I'm really glad that she told me after I ate it that it was cow cheek, because when you think about it, you're like, ugh. But it was really good. I know, he's like, ew, gross. Gross. I know. That's why I'm glad she told me after.
Well,
what I
both of
was
them,
eating.
cicadas or cow cheeks. I'll avoid both.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
So you brought up Mexico, so I'll just ask, just to wrap it up, right? So you get to travel tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say, because we're talking about the success of this show after 2 years, and it's your first travel experience for Women in the Arena. Where is it? Where are you going?
I'm going to Spain because that's where my family is that I've never met. And there's so much rich family history there that I've heard about my entire life. I'd like to go and see it for myself. And and the women in Madrid are they're amazing women. They're a little bit crazy, and they're my people. Those are my kind of people.
I love how she threw that in. They're my people.
Yes. Women that aren't afraid to get on top of a bar and dance. And to answer your question, oh, yes, I have. Oh, yes, I have done that. As most recently as a year ago when I was in Alaska. We were in a bar, and the owner happened to be female, and we were dancing. She says, "You guys can dance on the bar if you want." And I'm like, "Say no more." And there I was on the bar.
I want pictures, Audra.
I've got pictures. I have video.
So that's something else we share in common.
Yes. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, Mike has video of me dancing with a human disco ball on his phone.
I love it.
So I was actually thinking that I've seen you maybe not dance on something, but certainly dance to your own tune and enjoy yourself at conferences that we've been at in the past. So yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I've seen it in action.
And it's awesome.
I love it. That's wonderful. Do we have time for one more question?
Yeah. Mike, do you have time, or do you got to run?
No, we have time.
I've got nothing but time today.
All right. So we talked about whether you would go back in time or forward to the future.
Mm-hmm.
What scares you most about the future? Aliens or artificial intelligence and robots?
Oh.
Mike is laughing his head off.
Oh my God. Probably artificial intelligence. Because I swear to God, Alexa is listening to me all the time, and she just randomly says stuff, and I'm like, what? So that probably scares me the most. And, I've seen The Matrix, and I already feel like a human battery being plugged into a machine. I don't really want to see it up close in person. So probably that. And then, of course, I am a giant dork and bought this crazy refrigerator a week ago that is interactive. And so I'm continue to bring the artificial intelligence into my house. And so eventually it's going to take over my life. Eventually. And I'm doing it to
eventually.
myself.
Yep. Well, thank you for being honest.
Yeah. Only way to roll. Mike
Absolutely.
is grinning ear to ear because I don't know if I'm funny or if you got something funny to ask me, but go for it.
No, I'm just listening to you talk about artificial intelligence, and as you're talking about it, I'm thinking about how it's permeated my life as well, and it's ridiculous, but it's real. It's there, and it could, I guess, potentially be scary.
Yep, but you know what? We're doing it to ourselves. What the heck?
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't have to turn on my lights by myself anymore. They go on by themselves. They go off by themselves. You know, it's all good. My refrigerator will talk to my stove and tell it what temperature to set. I'm afraid that they'll conspire in the middle of the night and do something crazy.
It's coming.
It's like, oh, I know. Let's mess with her. Let's like just do random sounds in the middle of the night or just start talking to her. It'll happen. I guarantee you. And then they'll all get together.
Your refrigerator is going to talk to Amazon, who's going to order gallons of milk from Whole Foods to be delivered because you have a half a gallon left or something crazy like that.
Something crazy like that.
You walk outside and you have cases of milk on your front step.
Probably. I'll be like, oh, awesome. That's great. What am I going to do with all this milk? You guys got anything else?
I don't.
Good.
You asked all your questions?
I did. I was erasing them as I asked them, and I'm down to 0.
Oh my gosh.
I do have a couple of more. Mine were more on the lighter side. Mine were all on the lighter side because I wanted to bring the fun Audra out. Because so on most of her shows, we end up crying.
Yes.
There's always tears on the show. So I wanted to bring levity. This is a celebration.
Yes.
So are you a Harry Potter fan?
I'm not. I don't understand it.
Okay.
But
so you don't know what a Patronus is?
No, I don't know what a Patronus is.
Okay, so
I know what Patron is. I know what Patron is. Patron's my favorite. Absolutely.
That adds levity.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Think back to when your kids were younger.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever forget your kids anywhere?
I didn't. And the reason why I didn't is because my parents forgot me all the time, like constantly. I'm like, seriously, how do you forget this mouth? I mean, I've been a big mouth my entire life. I may have had times of insecurity, but I've never been afraid to use my mouth. How do you forget this? Maybe it was on purpose, now that I think about it.
I was just going to say, maybe they didn't forget you.
However, while I have never forgotten them, this will be no surprise to Mike. I have run late more than once. And I'd be screaming up, and they're standing outside the school going, "What were you doing, Mom?" I'm like, "I was working. I got distracted. I was on a call, whatever." Or, this is something I didn't mention at the top of the hour. Mike's a former boss of mine. So maybe I was getting chewed out by Mike, throwing you totally under the bus. But yes, I have run late to pick them up, but I've never forgotten them. It may take me a while to get there, but I will get there.
What is one of the most spontaneous things you've ever done?
Oh, I can't say that on a radio. I mean, I can't say that on a show.
Oh, now I want to know.
I definitely can't say that on the show. And when my husband hears this recording, you go, "Yeah, baby." Something that is clean.
Okay, the second most. Yes.
Okay, something that is clean. we actually did it with the kids. We woke up one morning, had zero plans, packed a bag, and we went to Disneyland for the day.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to just walk up to the airport and say, where's the next plane going? I'm on it. I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah, we've done that. We literally had nothing to do. There was no swim meets to go to. There was no soccer practice or soccer games, or there was nothing to do. And we're like, Disneyland it is. And so off we went. And we didn't have to take a plane. It's only 5 hours by car. So we just jumped in the car, packed a bag, and off we went.
Wow. That's very spontaneous. I bet your kids had a fun day.
They had a blast. They had so much fun. We spent the night and then came back the next day.
Very nice. So if you had a superhero superpower, what would it be?
Oh, that's easy. To teleport. Do you know how handy that would be to teleport? I mean,
you wouldn't be late. You wouldn't be late.
I wouldn't be late.
Touché, Mike.
I wouldn't be late. I mean, it would be so awesome. Like, as I've gotten older, like driving around town is kind of a chore. I mean, it's really not that fun anymore for me. I like longer drives. Those are way more fun, but like bopping around town is just not any fun. It would be amazing. I would just teleport myself to Trader Joe's. Yay! And then teleport myself home. I mean, that's what I would want.
See, I would be teleporting myself to Paris, to Bangkok, not to Whole Foods.
I would do that too. I would definitely do that too. But running errands would be so easy. It'd be so easy. And, you guys also have to keep in perspective that, it's hotter than the sun out there right now. So running errands is awful. Like I got a new car this year, and it has a remote start. I use that thing every day that I'm out running around because I'm like, turn the air on, because it's just so hot. But yeah, that's the first thing that comes into my head is teleporting, so I don't have to sweat in between running from store to store.
I love it. I love it. Okay, I'm going to close out with one last question that's probably going to get you in trouble with your husband. What is a secret that you have kept from him?
Oh my God.
You said anything, we could ask you anything.
Oh my God. I really don't, as he walks in the room and he peeks into as he's peeking in here. Secret that I've kept from my husband.
He's like standing in the door going, yeah, I want to hear this.
Yeah, he is. He's totally standing in the door. I don't. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Well, I mean, I don't. I mean, they're secrets until they show up. I shop a little online. And it's what the hell is this? Oh, well, like, I'll give you an example. I just bought a bunch of ruggable rugs because we're remodeling the house. We're redoing everything. We realized that it was way too expensive to downsize the house. So we're just like, forget it. We'll just remodel the house the way we like it, and not have to worry about kids destroying it anymore. And I ordered these ruggables, which are these carpets or these rugs that you can they come in 2 pieces, so you can flip off the top and throw it in the washing machine. These big boxes showed up, and he's like, what the hell are these? Oh, well, we needed them. We definitely needed them.
I'm writing this down. Ruggables. That sounds awesome. I need to look at that.
Ruggable.
We have 4 dogs in our house, so we have quite a few ruggables around here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that.
So yeah, that's those are probably the biggest secrets. They're not secrets for long.
Absolutely.
He's like, oh, what? But since I manage the finances, he knows I'm not going to do anything crazy. He's like, I trust you know what you're doing. I do. I got it under control.
as truckloads of stuff come by, Amazon is just like
Ignore the
stopping
truck.
again.
Ignore the truck. Ignore the truck. No, it's not for me. Hurry, park around the corner.
Well, thank you, Audra, for being so open and answering all of our questions. That was awesome.
You are welcome. Thank you both for agreeing to do this. I know I gave you a big, heavy task because I gave you zero guidance at all. But I wanted to see what we could do.
And you can see by the questions we were asking.
Yes, which was great. So I thank you both for doing this. This was a lot of fun. I think we should probably do this again because you guys were both amazing hosts. And I'm not kidding, Mike. I'm going to wear you down. I think that the audience would love to hear from you, right? Suha, say yes.
Yes, of course. Undoubtedly.
Well,
Noted.
Thank you both. And I want to thank the audience very much for once again supporting me and lifting me up for 2 years and sending me your questions and sending me your guests and just sending me your encouragement. I appreciate it very much. I am not stopping anytime soon. So I look forward to seeing what we're going to do in the future. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you again next time. That's our show. Thank you all so much for spending your time with me and continuing to support this show, this community, and our endeavor to change the world one interview at a time. If you have any ideas for a new show or for a guest that you'd like me to interview, please reach out to me at audra@womeninthearena.net. Thank you again for all of your support, and we'll see you again next time. That's our show. I am so grateful for each and every one of you and your unwavering support and your continued belief in this movement that has become much bigger than me, much bigger than just a podcast. It has become this forward momentum that we are all doing together. If you are ready, or you know somebody that is ready to tell your story and share your value with the world, please connect with me. You can reach me at audra@womeninthearena.net. I am so honored and thankful that you will share your story with me, and I'll make sure that it is well taken care of. I will never stop thanking each and every one of you, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next week as we share another woman's story and we celebrate her doing extraordinary things in plain sight. We'll see you next time.